I was wondering, like, I guess, like, how you feel like your gender identity has, like, interacted with your mental health.
Totally. That's a really interesting question. I think in a lot of ways, so this is not nearly as much of a part of my life now as it was before I transitioned. One of the first like diagnosis that I ever received mental health wise was depersonalization derealization disorder, which basically just means that I would have these episodes that were often unpredictable, that were also largely associated with like trauma and traumatic like triggers, um, where I would just like go completely out of my body. I would have trouble remembering what had happened during those time periods. Everything looked different. It felt like everything was like a movie set, or like, you know, when you're in like Disneyland or Universal Studios and they have those like houses that are like 4 feet tall, that are like supposed to look like real houses from a certain distance, but they're not. That's how like all the buildings looked, um, when I was like dissociating, and so that diagnosis was really really scary because like sometimes those episodes would last for like a month, and that was just like very off-putting and like destabilizing, and not completely, but 99% of those symptoms have gone away since I transitioned. um, I also was anorexic for a long time. That has like that sort of continued throughout my transition and became tied to my gender stuff, because I was like, well, if I look like the skinniest, smallest version of myself possible, no one will see me as a threat, and no one will see me as a man. They'll see me as like small, weak, vulnerable woman. So there was the eating disorder component of things. There was the depersonalization component of things. There's also so one of the several diagnoses that I received like freshman year of college was harm OCD, which I don't really experience the symptoms of anymore. But essentially, for those of you who don't know, it's basically like it's like OCD. So you have obsessions and compulsions. You have things, intrusive thoughts, and the things that you obsess about, and compulsions that you do in order to like fix those thoughts or like make things feel right. But with harm OCD, the obsessions are generally focused on being afraid that you are like a violent person or a predator, or like a threat in some way, or that you have hurt people, or that you're going to hurt people. And so it's all of these like really irrational, and at the time they don't feel irrational, but like looking back, they and having like processed this with like mental health professionals, it feels irrational. But like just like, yeah, this view of yourself as like this evil like harmful person, and that I think was definitely associated with me for with like gender dysphoria, and stopped me from transitioning for a long time, and stopped me from like realizing my like sapphicness for a long time, um, and now I like very rarely get symptoms of that. So I think in a lot of ways, none of this is to say that like those mental health conditions were really just like dysphoria, um, but I think that they do have a complex relationship, and I think that certainly transitioning and being more honest with yourself and being more true to who you are, and discovering more about yourself and having that self-knowledge can make working through those things a lot easier.